Excuse the background noise, but I'm just in a restaurant here. Um, Especially seeing the young men and ladies in our private school coming into puberty in teenage years, it's becoming clearer and clearer the importance of teaching them rudimentary knowledge about relationships, good sides and bad sides. This next speaker, I'm not sure if he's a Christian or not. It seems he might not be. But a lot of the things he says in his research seems extremely insightful. So I'm going to play a number of his clips which covers basic concepts, but sometimes in courtship and teenagers or older people dating certain people, you wonder, the people seem very uneducated and almost clueless about how to pick a potential person to marry. So some of these things might be quite insightful.
This channel is dedicated towards helping men be their best versions of themselves and understanding women so that they can have successful relationships. Many years ago, a community of men formed calling themselves pickup artists, and they would swap advice with each other on the best way to meet and date women. To begin with, their advice mainly consisted of tips and tricks that would be used to enhance your status in social situations. Say this line to her, play this game with her. At the time, it was something of a revolution because it empowered men to take control of their own dating lives. As time went on, the techniques they employed became more and more sophisticated and refined, but ultimately it led to the discovery that if you really want to date a high-quality woman, it's not about saying this line or acting in this particular way. It's not about any trick that you can employ. It's about fundamentally changing your life. Not so that you appear to be confident and successful, but so that you are confident and successful. This is why, over time, the pickup scene has begun to look more and more like the self-improvement scene. The focus is now less on how to make women attracted to you, but how to become the best version of yourself, for which women being attracted to you is just the natural byproduct. Now, when you're a teenager, you are swimming in hormones, and it's quite natural for you to spend all of your waking and a lot of your dreaming life as well thinking about women.
What he said there might sound quite godless, but the fact is that God has made us with bodies and hormones, and a lot of teenagers and millions of children at school coming into their teenage years and early adulthood have got a lot of God-given physical, worldly desires, hormones built into them so that mankind's future on earth can carry on through families. And stepping away from extreme spirituality, these physical realities must be addressed as parents and as people that are older and can give advice.
Now, when you're a teenager, you are swimming in hormones, and it's quite natural for you to spend all of your waking and a lot of your dreaming life as well thinking about women. But as you get older and wiser and you accumulate more experiences, you realize that women cannot be the focus of your life. The main focus of your life should be yourself.
Now that might seem extremely godless and worldly to say, but remember what we are trying to do here. We are trying to give practical, worldly advice how to build yourself up practically as a man who can support a wife and a family one day.
It is important that you understand that when you place women at the center of your world, they're not going to find that attractive. The more you chase, the more they run. Don't believe me? Maybe you'll believe this woman.
Well, I've been with the same guy for a very long time, but we did actually break up, and I had this other guy, and he was, completely just head over heels for me and wouldn't even look at another girl, but it was too much because he was just so overly clingy, overprotective, jealous, just a little ridiculous, so I ended it with him.
So it wasn't like attractive to you, it was like repelling?
No, because you gotta let your partner be their own person still.
Her story is not unique. This pattern repeats itself again and again, over and over throughout the world. men continue to make the same mistake. A man likes a girl, and so he starts focusing more and more attention on her. He's thinking about her all the time. He wants to spend all his time with her. He wants to be closer to her. But the more he does that, the more she's repulsed by that behavior and less attracted to him. For any young guys listening to this, you need to pay special attention. Stop focusing so much on women. I know you want to go on dates. I know you want a girlfriend. You need to stop focusing on women because they don't find that attractive. What I'm talking about is so important to understand. We need to talk about the big picture. What I'm talking about is a fundamental shift in the way that you see the world. You need to ignore what your hormones are telling you to do. They're telling you to put women as the center of your world, that you should be focusing on women. Ignore them. You should be the focus of your world. You need to be your own center of gravity. I don't remember when I first heard it. There was something like 10 years ago. But I want to share the boat and island analogy because it's a fantastic way to understand how this world operates. You see, men are islands and women are boats. So what does this mean? Well, think of it this way. Every man lives alone on an island. He plants the trees that he likes. He builds the buildings that he wants. He spends his life shaping the island to be the perfect expression of his masculine creative energies. And he's happy there alone on his island. But women are not islands. They don't want to spend time by themselves, isolated, building their own lives. That's why women are boats. What they do is they hop on their boat and they sail through the water, ducking and weaving in between all of the islands, looking for one that looks enticing. If they see an island that they like, they'll dock their boat, they'll go on shore, and they'll live on the man's island for a little while. They'll try it out. If they like it, they'll stay. If they don't, they'll hop back on their boat and sail off again and try and find another island. What this means in the real world is that men are the ones who are creating the life that they want. You might find that one man's life is all about creating music, going on tour and expressing himself creatively. Another man's life is all centered around business, building up his company. Another guy's a hippie. He's all about living in a van, traveling around the world like a nomad. Now, a woman will sail into this guy's life and she'll try that hippie lifestyle. And what she's doing is she's testing it out to see how well it fits with her. It's important you understand the distinction between men and women in this case because she's not building her own life. She's just seeing how well she fits into his. If it's not a good long-term fit, then she's going to break up with him. And maybe she'll go off with the musician man or the businessman.
These words of dating and jumping from one man to the next sounds very godless. We must just take it in the perspective of the Christian way of courting and seeing who you want to marry one day. And many of the foundations of this analysis is Christian. And you can see it in churches as well, how ladies in the church pick a marriage partner. Obviously things like godliness and how they lead you to God and God's ways is very important there, but also practical things like what he's mentioning here. A Christian man should not be lazy, have no vision, have no goals, have no plan for his life, working towards something for God. Many of the godly men like David and Daniel and many of the godly men in the Bible had many of these traits this guy is talking about.
This dynamic is what comes naturally to both genders. They're complementary. Men are masculine. They're meant to be the leaders, the creators, the ones with the vision and dedication to achieving their life purpose in exactly the way that they foresee. Women are different. They have their own role. They're feminine and supportive. Deep inside herself, a woman knows that it's her feminine role to contribute her energy towards helping a man achieve his vision. So while she's sailing around the ocean on her boat, navigating the dating market, she's looking at all of these islands and she's asking herself, which one of these islands would be the best one to live on? Which one of these men would I most like to contribute my energy towards? Which one of these men am I best suited towards helping with my feminine energy, my feminine contribution? So you see, when you understand that women are not islands, they're boats, then you can understand the mistake that so many men continue to make. Men are failing in their masculinity because they're not focused on themselves. They're not focused on creating an amazing island, creating an amazing life. Those kinds of men are on their own boats, and they're failing so miserably because their time is spent following around the female boats. But that's why women ignore them. Women aren't looking for a man with a boat. Women want a man with his own independent life. Women are looking for a man on an island. Now, it does happen. Occasionally, a woman does take pity on one of these men and temporarily will allow him to hitch his boat to hers. But the relationship is doomed from the start because she's not going to be attracted to a man with a boat. He shouldn't be living on a boat. He should be living on an island. And eventually, she's going to feel the attachment between them as dead weight. And quite naturally, she's going to cut him loose. So if you take nothing else from this video, please internalize this message. When you are focusing on women, you are pushing your energy outwards. And that energy is repelling women. When you focus your energy inwards and you direct that energy towards yourself, creating your own life, creating your amazing island, that energy attracts women. So stop being a sidekick in your own story. Once you've built your island, built your life, women are going to start to arrive on their boats, all of them desperate to live there permanently. And then you'll be in the position to choose which one of them gets to stay. If this is something that you feel like you struggle with, how to have masculine focus in your life and how to make women attracted to you, book a one-on-one Skype session with me, and together we'll figure out how to improve things for you.
In a practical way, not a super spiritual way, people are very bad at identifying human beings, like who is going to be of benefit and a great blessing for you in the future, and who is going to be an absolute curse for you in the future. This is extremely important, especially if the people masquerade very romantically and lovingly and caringly for you. It is of utmost importance to identify people before you get into relationships. And this doesn't go about men or women, but goes about both sexes, and is an extremely important trait to identify low quality men and low quality women before these young people start courting anyone.
The 10 characteristics of a low quality woman, and these are in no particular order, but number 1 is she's mean. Men want women who are kind, who are nurturing, who are compassionate. That's kind of the point of femininity. So being mean is one of the worst things that a woman can be. If she's abusive, if she's critical, if she's insulting, then she's really low quality. Life is messy. There's always going to be disagreements, miscommunications. Nobody's perfect. We're all going to make mistakes. But whatever woman you're dating, you want to feel respected. You want to feel heard. If there's any tension between the two of you, you want it to be resolved peacefully. If she's mean while handling all those conflicts, then I write her off as a low quality woman.
No matter how beautiful or charming the person seems, man or woman, when you're handling conflict and the person is nasty, doesn't allow you to speak, shows narcissistic traits, doesn't say thank you for sharing your problems, handle your worries and problems with care and understanding, and actually put in action to that, but is aggressive, fights, walks out, isn't interested in hearing your side. These are very, very bad traits.
Second characteristic of a low quality woman is she's promiscuous, and I can't believe how far our society has slid into the muck that this is a controversial perspective that I have. Obviously, the more partners a woman has had, the more diminished her capacity for pair bonding. There's also concerns about paternity certainty.
Did you know if you sleep with more than 5 guys, your chance of a happy marriage after 10 years goes from 80% to 25%? Because the more men you sleep with, you lose your ability to bond with each one. So if you sleep with one guy, you're going to compare the next guy to him. If you sleep with 10 guys, you compare all 10. If you sleep with 20, you compare all 20. If you did that because you're with your husband thinking about the last 10 guys that maybe weren't as good as the one you married.
This is obviously extremely important point that many people miss. I think she said if you sleep with 5 guys, your probability of staying married drops from 80% to I think 25%. That is enormous. The problem with a lot of this, say a person has 5 boyfriends that some of them the person might not sleep with but do sexual things with, French kiss the person, whatever else. The problem is you will be thinking about those things with your husband one day, comparing your husband to them. If say 2 of the 5 guys broke up with you, and they broke up with you in a very romantic, happy part of the relationship, you have put those people on a pedestal which potentially your husband can't reach. Or if those people were much, much better than your husband in a sexual way, that you are comparing your husband to those people and will be remembering those acts while being married to your husband, and potentially make you unhappy with your husband instead of thinking how to improve this necessarily. This is an extremely big problem with having multiple boyfriends and then marrying, because you'll be comparing and thinking about those acts and situations while being married to a man.
How many sexual partners have you had?
I've had 0. 0.
0.
0.
It's like awkward talking to people about it because it's weird, and it shouldn't be that I'm like an adult and like haven't even gotten close.
1.
Would you change that number if you could?
Yeah.
To what?
0.
I think something that's been lost is that people are not teaching children enough the beauty of holiness, of purity, what happens inside you, how you built up as a human being, or degenerated if you're not pure and not holy. I think in schools, many high schools, guys that have the most girlfriends are actually looked up to. The more they defile and putrefy themselves and their spirits and their innermost being and their consciences, the more highly esteemed they viewed. Look at how God is called holy and how much it talks about God's holiness. Go through these scriptures. I think a seraph says in heaven, holy, holy, holy. Or it actually might be the 12 thrones around God. I'm not quite sure. It says, holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. Then the second one, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of the wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is insight. It calls him the Holy One. And then the third one, and the highway shall be there, and it shall be called the way of holiness. Isaiah again. For thus says the one who is high and lifted up, who inhabits eternity, whose name is holy. God's name is holy. It seems around the world that holiness is not being, people are not striving for it, or a lot of people are not striving for it.
I've had 4.
I think 5. Like 5.
5. 11. 12. 11 or 12.
13.
I've had 12.
I'd say well over like 15.
So I've had 22.
So please pause the video after you've listened to my voiceover. It surprises me. You'll see this next girl speaks about that she's had how many partners and now she's in a long-term relationship, and it's changed her view on love and how people love each other. Often what happens is guys and girls have 5 or 6, or what's the average now, over 10 sexual partners before marriage. And then early on you speak to them after their third partner and they go like, well, this is love, a true love. Then you meet them again after their 5th partner. No, this is true love. Their 7th partner, their 9th partner. Love does not lead you into the sins of the devil. Love does not make you an enemy of God. A guy or a girl that is leading you into sexual sin actually hates you and does not love you.
But for the past year, I was seeing someone. It was my first time like being in love, you know, and it totally changed. I learned a lot, and it changed what I thought about like sex and love, and it's way better like being in love with someone.
I would say probably 20. I don't really consider sex to be like a big deal. It's just like, it's an activity that you do, and if the vibe's there, it's like, why not?
25.
27 actually.
A lot.
In the 30s. Last I checked, we were upwards of about 50. 6.5. I think it's like 8 or 9. 5.
12.
28.
How many people have you slept with?
He just asked me how many people I slept with. Should I give him a real answer or a fake one? Okay, I'll talk to you later. 15.
If you gave me like 10 minutes, I might be able to figure it out.
0.
None.
I haven't slept with anyone.
Six.
Probably like 10. Sounds like a lot when you say it out loud, but yes, 10 people.
I don't know, 12 to 20.
30? Considering how old I am, it's okay.
One night stands. Well, I've definitely had over 50.
I actually don't know, but I think it's over 50.
I'd say just under 100.
I would say probably close to 30.
I kind of stopped counting, but it's definitely over 70.
I stopped counting after 25-ish.
8 or 9.
9 or 10.
10, I think.
13 or 12. 16?
Between 15 and 25.
I have had 20.
I have no idea.
Soul ties. What are they? How are they formed? How do I recognize if I have a tie with someone? And most importantly, how do I break that tie? A soul tie is a massively deep spiritual connection between two people. It's a tie that's powerful enough to have deep and often bad effects if it's never broken. The reason for this is because, as the name suggests, you're intertwined to another person. You're entangled at a deeper level.
Many people think this is different inside the so-called church than outside the so-called church. In fact, many dating relationships inside the so-called church by a certain amount of people is extremely promiscuous. And people are going to church but also dating. It is just as promiscuous as the world, so watch out. I think Paul Washer says the devil also goes to church. So be very careful that you don't get conned by someone under the auspices that they're a church goer. Christians are not people that just go to church. They they try to do the Word of God. Someone that has had so-called many courtship relationships, the first problem with that is they seem to find every second man attractive. If someone has courted a number of guys under the auspices they did nothing sexually with the guys, the big problem still is they like a lot of guys, which means their standards are either non-existent or very low.
Did you know if you sleep with more than 5 guys, your chance of a happy marriage after 10 years goes from 80% to 25%? Because the more men you sleep with, you lose your ability to bond with each one. So if you sleep with one guy, you're going to compare the next guy to him. If you sleep with 10 guys, you compare all 10. If you sleep with 20, you compare all 20. If you did that because you're with your husband thinking about the last 10 guys.
Obviously, the more partners a woman has had, the more diminished her capacity for pair bonding.
Let us just pause there. This is extremely important, and I don't think many people understand this. The more partners a woman or man has, the more diminished their capacity for pair bonding. What is extremely important is the bonding process. Now you see it in war, when men go to war. At first it's extremely difficult for them to kill people. The more people they kill, the more their soul retracts, and the easier it gets to kill. And after a while, killing means nothing. At first they are devastated. As this process is ripped and they kill more and more people and their soul is ripped, this becomes very easy for them. Now in relationships, it is extremely important to create one of the most beautiful, tightest bonds on earth with your wife or husband. The more boyfriends or girlfriends you have, and this is not necessarily just with everyone you have actual sex with, you can French kiss, do extremely romantic things or other sexual acts that are outside sex, and you are diminishing your capacity to bond with your husband. Take it this way, people that have had many courtship or dating relationships, that have broken up with one person, gone out with another person, broken up with a person, have had many boyfriends or girlfriends. Breaking up becomes easy. The capacity for them to bond to someone is extremely limited, and that is a huge problem in marriage. First of all, you could easily leave the person in marriage. But if you have Christian foundations and you don't believe in that, still it is difficult for you to create a blessed, incredible bond with that person, because you have had so many romantic relationships, even though they haven't been sexual, or let's call it having sex, but other physical, intimate activities. So now you marry someone that has had multiple boyfriends and girlfriends, and you find the person is cold, distant, or at least cold and far more cold and distant than it should be. Not cruel or nasty, but it's like someone who cries and is so enthralled with their first car, even though it's not the most expensive car, ribbons put around the car, and they are delighted. By the time they're 60 and they've had, 15 cars or whatever, if you give them that same car again, it's like there's not much reaction. It's not unthankfulness, but it's cold and it's distant. This is part of the difficulty for people with multiple partners, who've had multiple partners, to pair bond, to create deep, deep joy and happiness and excitement. You should share your first house together. Problem with living with people as well. Apart from the sexual problems with that, nothing is special and nothing is unique anymore. These things should be done only with one person. No one else.
Obviously, the more partners a woman has had, the more diminished her capacity for pair bonding. Lots of men are more likely to cheat on future partners and also more likely to divorce them. A woman who's promiscuous shows that she has no standards for the quality of men that she engages with. And to top it all off, it's a cheap and easy way for a woman to get self-esteem. There's no actual achievement there. Any woman can get sex.
We have to pause here again, and this is extremely unfortunate because I don't think many young ladies, especially in high school, understand this. I don't know if they know how the human body has been made up and the sexual drives that men have, how that differs from women. So as he said here, any woman can get sex. Now, what is very interesting is if you are amongst, say, worldly men or men in the church that just go to church but are actually worldly outside the church, the male body is made to procreate with a woman when she is ready to become pregnant. So if a woman acts promiscuously, the male body of a worldly man, and as I said, a man who's in the church masquerading as a Christian but dates and has many sexual activities with girls, he will jump at the chance to, let's call it in biological terms because God created all this for the propagation of children, he will jump at the chance to have sexual intercourse with a woman. Now, the poor girls think they are special in high school and loved and liked, etc., etc., but what they do not realize, they are playing into a biological trap here. A woman that acts promiscuously will be attractive to worldly men, and many, many, many worldly men will have sex with them easily and quickly, and soon she has a whole list of guys that have had sex with her, but they obviously don't love her and don't want her. But high school girls unfortunately don't know this, and they think they are liked and loved if they have many partners. They are not. They are being used. Someone who likes and loves you waits for sex after he's married you.